Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype, episode number 24, recording on Saturday, August 15th. And my name is Sean.
My name is Frank.
And my name is Andrew.
A little bit of a different show this week.
I didn't know who was going to go first. Sean's taking over. He's fucking me over.
I have wrenched control of the show back from Frank, but Frank is out on the road today. Just pulled over off to the side for a little brief Game Junk interlude.
Oh, absolutely. Up north, undisclosed location. I stayed up for 20. I woke up after a nap from 9 p.m. on Thursday. My sleep is so fucked. And I said, I'm going to stay up 24 hours. I'm going up to a cottage. I want to reset my sleep. I'm going to stay up 24 hours. Go to bed at like 9 p.m. and sleep for 10 or 12 hours and then go up. Mission successful. Stayed up 24 hours. While doing a boating exam, my eyes were closing constantly. I'm like, I still made it through. Passed my pleasure craft exam.
Look at this guy.
Went to bed at 9 o'clock, woke up at like just before 2 a.m. and was wired. What do you do when you're wired at 2 a.m.? There's only one thing you can do. Watch Dark Shadows. You gotta watch Dark Shadows. It was so good. But yeah, I'm fully in vacay mode. Got the fucking shades on. Got my What About Bob t-shirt on. It's party mode. Taking a vacation from my problems. Anyway, Let's get these stupid things off. Let's get serious.
All right.
Well, listeners will have to check out the YouTube version for the real visual.
Shit, I'm on the side of the road. I don't know if you probably can't see it. A crazy little caterpillar. It's a pretty big caterpillar, actually. Fuck, I'm in nature. I think, is that a turtle? No, it's not a turtle. Love this shit.
So we're going to try to keep it short this week. We got a couple news stories to get to. If there's time, we may jump into some stuff we've been playing, but a couple big stories, though. Maybe we'll start with the Microsoft Halo debacle, since it kind of ties into stuff we've been talking about not that long ago. So this week, Microsoft announced that Halo Infinite will be delayed to 2021. They did follow that up quickly with an announcement that the Xbox Series X is still on track to release in November. But, they thought that Halo Infinite was going to be a launch title. We thought it was going to be a launch title. That was a huge thing they had going for them. And now it is not a launch title. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think they were listening to Game Junk a couple weeks ago?
Well, Phil's going on podcasts like crazy, so he's got to be listening to Game Junk. Phil, give me a call, man. You want me to tell you what you're buying the wrong companies, you're doing the wrong stuff. Just call me. I'll let you know what's up. And I got to address something because I if people are watching on YouTube, if you look, I noticed there's a Wonder Bread.
It's just very suspicious.
If people are this is not typical bread. This is like puns and shit for up north. Relax. Don't think I've been lying this whole time.
Conspiracy confirmed.
I've never told a lie about that previously. Just so you know, this is a rare exception.
Oh, I can't wait for Jay's
in the act.
It's actually it's Wonder Thin Slice, which is a new thing, which I'm digging. I gotta be honest.
You're digging? I thought you said this was a new thing, like you never had it before.
I tried Wonder Thin Slice last week, and I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Story's falling apart.
There's nothing going on here. Anyway, it's
Halo.
It's a disaster. Microsoft is in big trouble. I love it because now I can wait and get a Series X with my optimum points. So this is good news for me. And I'm not surprised. It looked pretty bad. Phil must have been snapping. Everyone at Microsoft must be snapping. It's not good. It's just not good.
No, they did play the whole, the COVID card and kind of the, we want to make sure that work-life balance is good for our team and stuff like that. But I mean, this had to be like, we weren't the only ones that were kind of picking apart the trailer that they showed during the showcase.
Definitely not.
It's got to be a factor, right?
I would think so. I would think. I think they're just trying to hide the fact that the game really wasn't up to snuff. Like, I mean, we mentioned the texture pop-ins and like all the object pop-in, and that's just like unpolished, and that's what you're showing. That's like your polished demo, quote unquote. So I can't even imagine what, some of the other, pieces of the game that you haven't polished up to that level are looking like. Now, maybe the whole game's like that. It's possible that's just like the standard, and maybe it was just brought to their attention that that's not up to snuff with this demo they showed. It does seem suspect that now he's going on this, campaign to say, oh, we didn't want to split up the game. Now, I thought it was like story campaign parts, but Frank brought up that it was probably multiplayer versus single player, which I think is probably correct. But still, I mean, there's still got to be more to it, I would think. If you're trying to like deflect and not bring up the visuals at all, I think the game's in a little more trouble. And even the fact that they're showing it so late and so close to quote unquote their launch, I think that was also suspect as well.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's as much to do with the technical or graphic complaints from the demo, because how can they fix that? Like, they've done almost every asset for the game. How can you change your entire graphical style or upgrade your visuals in 6 months unless it's a major delay, which I can't see happening? So I'm sure that they were kind of in a position where when they saw that reaction, they're like, well, it's got to be really good if we're going to release it with this graphical fidelity or whatever. So I think it's just, we got to polish the shit out of this turd and do the best we can. And I guess it was kind of surprising to me. I don't know if I read this correctly in that article, but talk of the multiplayer being free to play, which could be interesting, and I guess is a part of the Microsoft new value proposition and just trying to bring players into the ecosystem or Game Pass, something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think of it being free to play. I mean, because in my mind it already is, just because like I'm in on Game Pass. But I guess that is another way. I mean, a lot of all the battle royale games and stuff are free to play. It's certainly a way to get an audience, and I mean, I assume that means they're going to be selling some kind of cosmetic stuff, like some kind of add-on to make money from it. But
I'm shocked at like my friends' kids and stuff like that, how much they spend with V-Bucks on Fortnite and stuff like that.
Well, we got to get into it because I had an experience with that this week.
It's crazy. So, I mean, why, like the foundation for Halo's multiplayer has always been great. So if that goes free to play, I would think they have a huge competitive edge. Like, a lot of players would switch to that. Especially kids who started on Fortnite and are now maybe like getting a little older, like in their early teens and stuff like that, and can play more mature stuff. Drop that Fortnite bullshit. At least play Halo.
I'm wondering how much the existing Halo multiplayer audience will hate that, though. Because I haven't played Halo multiplayer in years, but isn't it kind of based on skill? And now you're adding in potentially the ability to make like pay to win. Like how will that affect? I mean, if it's just skins or whatever, fine.
I'm sure it's just cosmetic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to say, I guess.
It is true, though, that I think the current Halo multiplayer base is very highly skilled players. Like, those are the people who are still playing Halo right now. And granted, I think anytime a new Halo game launches, you're going to get some noobs coming in and like trying to learn the ropes. But with free to play, that would be increased significantly. So, I mean, that will change. I mean, I'm sure they have matchmaking and stuff to kind of help with that, but that could change the makeup of the general kind of base of people that are playing the game.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Now, and Call of Duty did also do this, right? With what's it called?
Warzone.
Warzone. I don't know how successful that game has been or what kind of player
But
base.
that's just their battle royale, right? So if Halo was to make their entire multiplayer suite free to play, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, there was one other minor thing. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about this, but there was some kind of controller that leaked, leading to people talking about an Xbox Series S, which I guess would be like a downgraded version of the Series X. I haven't read too much about it yet, and it's obviously not officially announced. Any info on that you guys know of?
I mean, that rumor's been out there before, so not surprised, I guess.
Yeah, it did look official, but other than that, no real comment.
Yeah.
I didn't see this article. Like, why is the controller revealing it? Like,
it was actually on the packaging. So the guy had like an actual box with the controller inside it, and on the side of the package where it was listing the platforms that it's compatible with, it had Xbox Series X/S, and then Xbox One, Windows, iOS, like a bunch of other ones. So that was sort of like what, and it was, I mean, if it was a hoax, it was very, very well done. It looked legit. So it's hard to say.
It's official. This was already almost official at some point. So
yeah,
who gives a shit? It just confuses everything with Microsoft more. I told you, was it 3 months ago? It's over. It's already over. Sony has won. I couldn't have been more right.
Well, it's definitely not looking good for them right now, but we'll see, I guess. So the other big story that's unfolding as we speak, Epic made a big change to Fortnite this week. So they, in game for the iOS and Android versions of the game, they made a way that you can basically buy V-Bucks directly through them. So not going through the App Store or Google Play platforms. And immediately, because of that, they got pulled from both of those stores, which they apparently knew was going to happen because they had a whole PR campaign ready to go. And so they immediately filed a lawsuit against Apple, saying that they're monopolizing the platforms for digital game sales. And they released a video in Fortnite that was like a parody of the classic Apple 1984 commercial, and just started this online campaign about free Fortnite. That it's like they're fighting to have equal footing in the App Store with all developers. And I mean, it's a weird situation because it's like they're two very, very rich companies battling it out. And ultimately right now, I mean, the gamers, I guess, are the ones who lose. You can still play it on iOS, but you can't download it currently. And I think there's an update planned for later this month that will not, at that point, probably you won't be able to play on iOS anymore. What do you guys think about this?
Well, you also didn't mention that they did the same thing on the Google Play Store, and they're also suing Google. So basically, they did the same thing. They offered sort of like a discounted direct payment method for the V-Bucks, and then Google also pulled it for the same reason, saying it was violating the terms of services of their contract because all in-app purchases need to go through their stores. And then Epic laid a lawsuit. Now, I was listening to a legal podcast called Virtual Legality, and they are saying that, and they kind of have gone through the whole lawsuit papers, and it's a 65-page lawsuit. So I mean, they didn't just, this was totally their intent. And I mean, if the PR stunt wasn't enough to prove they were planning this ahead of time, I mean, you don't just whip up a 65-page lawsuit in the nick of time and like, oh, look, we just happen to have this ready lying around, right? So I think the takeaway from listening to that legal podcast was basically that they're trying to claim that Apple and Google have a monopoly on the App Store and that it should be free. Now they're not suing for any damages or anything. They're actually suing for just the right to have the platform opened up, and they're using as their example the Windows Store and the Windows platform. How I think it was the U.S. government 20 years ago or so forced Microsoft to unlock essentially Windows so that anyone could install stuff on Windows, similar to, I guess that's what they're using as their precedent, their legal precedent to try to get this through. And I mean, the difference, I guess, is that like with Google, you can sideload apps. You're not actually totally restricted. But with the Apple, I guess they have maybe a stronger case. I know on the legal podcast, they were kind of implied that they don't think that Epic's going to win this. But I mean, there is trickle down effects. Whereas if they do win this, then essentially Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo on their console platforms, they have the same thing. They have monopoly on those platforms. So they will, in theory, have to either whatever comes through in the legal thing, they either have to reduce or eliminate maybe in-app purchases, or like allow some sort of alternate store to be installed on their kits. And that just seems crazy to me that this would go through. But it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, because it definitely will have repercussions across. And I think the fact that the government in the past did force Windows to do this when they had a high market share, I think could sway a judge potentially. But I mean, obviously I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the arguments.
Wasn't the whole thing with Windows? Now, I don't know. There may have been like multiple lawsuits like this, but I thought the whole thing with Windows was that they just couldn't pre-install stuff on the OS because that gave them an advantage or something like that.
I don't know. I think I think Epic in their lawsuit, from trying to remember what was said in that legal podcast, I think they did mention that with Android, how Android forces you to install, Gmail and other like YouTube, Facebook, other apps that you cannot choose to not. And even though like it kind of becomes bundled now and you have to sign this agreement where you agree to have these apps on your phone at all times. And I think that's what they were kind of using as an example for Google. Now, I guess they could make the same for Apple. Like you have to have their iTunes installed and Safari and whatever else. So maybe that's sort of like the argument they're going to try to use.
Yeah. I mean, the big lawsuit that I remember from years ago was specifically over Internet Explorer. So maybe there's been other stuff since, and maybe this is completely unrelated. But yeah, it's a weird it's a weird thing to think about. And I mean, Frank, you were kind of bringing this up, but like, I mean, at a certain point, if you create the platform, you should be able to set the rules. But I think that changes when something becomes very ubiquitous. Everybody has it almost to the point where it's a necessity in life, which is kind of what mobile devices are now. But, it's still a weird, like if you think of all the game consoles, like people pay like licensing fees to have their games on game consoles, right? So it's kind of like that, isn't it? Like, isn't it kind of the same thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't see them winning this at all. And I'm surprised the consoles haven't like gotten together and said, okay, no Fortnite on anything. Like it would just be on PC. Like it's kind of I mean, Epic's already tried and successfully started their own store. So, I mean, that's cool. I think that they've taken like less cuts and stuff like that is a good thing and good for competition. So, I don't know. I don't see how they can win this, and I don't know. I haven't followed it that much. I already was not interested in Fortnite. I'm definitely less interested now, and I I'm in the Apple ecosystem, and coincidentally or not, I had just subscribed to Apple Arcade right before this happened. So I'm in. I'm always on Team Apple.
Yeah, I feel like I want to side with Apple on this for some reason, and I don't. It's not that I don't know. Like Epic's trying to frame themselves as like the underdogs, right? And they're like fighting for everybody's rights. That's obviously not the case. Like that's feels completely false to me. But I mean, there is an argument to be made. I just, I'm trying to put it in other terms in my head, and I was thinking of this because I know there was recently a law with movie theaters passed, right, where before movie studios couldn't own a movie theater. They just changed that. And so like, let's say Disney buys out, I mean, I don't know that this could ever happen, but say Disney buys out AMC theaters. They buy that entire theater chain and they decide we're only going to show Disney movies from now on. To me, that's a big problem, right? Like that seems like you can't do that because you're controlling that whole industry. There's a monopoly there. But like, what if?
Well, isn't the debate there, and the question would be, if Disney buys it and only shows Disney stuff, wasn't AMC already a monopoly? If that becomes a monopoly, wouldn't the idea be there's other theaters that can show whatever they want?
Well, there are.
And isn't that the crux of the Epic thing? Like, to me, the core issue here is there going to be a precedent or legal precedent set where a mobile phone is a necessity or something like that? And that's the real issue here behind the whole thing. That would be the thing that would have to change, I think.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say is, what if Disney invented movie theaters? Then would it be okay? Like that's kind of like I don't know if that really matters legally, but to me that feels like part of what the issue is here. Like Apple created the platform, so they should be able to set the rules. But at a certain point, if it takes over, then I guess legally there needs to be some intervention to prevent them from having complete control of it. I don't totally get it. Now, I mean, Epic did kind of throw their weight around already with Sony and the whole crossplay thing, right? Because Sony didn't want to do crossplay with other platforms, and I believe it was Epic that kind of forced them into it with Fortnite. So, I mean, they've had some success with this, but I agree. I don't know. I mean, from what I've read, people have said that they don't expect this to actually go to court. Like at some point, there's going to have to be a settlement one way or another because there's going to be so much money lost on both sides as this is happening. And it's like, who's that going to affect more? Like Apple's got a lot more money than Epic, I think. But Epic's got their game on a million other platforms. Like how many people really play on iOS?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I've never seen a person play Fortnite on an iOS in my life. So
I just downloaded it on an iPad this week because Kieran wanted to play and with myself and Maisie. So that became like our third device to play it on. And it was like the day before it got pulled down. But I've just had the experience too with an understanding of how much money Epic is making from this stuff, because I always thought, they're selling like a couple dollars here and there for skin or something. But
skins are so expensive in that game. It's ridiculous.
Well, the way the Battle Pass thing works really threw me for a loop because Kieran came in and he was like, I really want this skin. And the Battle Pass is $10. And I was like, well, okay, I guess that seems reasonable. It's a free game, whatever. But then I look into it and it's like he's level 20. The skin he wants unlocks at level 60. So he has to pay to get himself up to level 60. And if you don't, this whole progression thing, if you're playing the game, you can get an XP and level up without paying. But if you don't do it by the time the next season comes out, that skin's gone forever. So, we end up basically paying $60 for this thing. And I'm like, man, like what, like this, and that's not even like all the way to the end of the level progression. So like every season people are paying like $100, $120 or something to get all this stuff. Like that's insane.
You paid for it, bud.
Yeah, well, we split the cost, but I mean, it's hard to to me, it's like, this is just a virtual thing in the game. Like, I don't care, but like, he was so into it and just like was upset when I said he couldn't have it and stuff and like very disappointed. And I'm like, you know what? Like, this is this is a parenting moment where I need to somehow explain this to him. But it's like he doesn't even understand the value of money yet. You know what I mean? Like he has money in his piggy bank. So I was like trying to be like, okay, well, you pay some of your money. And he was just like, sure. I'm like, but you realize like you're just paying for like a costume in a game. Like, I don't know, man. It's fucked.
I guess the next legal question is Fortnite a necessity? We'll have to get to that point. Do you have to play Fortnite? I still can't believe this game is popular. Like, I know I've mentioned this before, but to me, it kind of sucks. I think it's cool. Some of the in-game marketing and how they use the platform is really neat, but just pick a good game. Move on from this stupid thing. When are kids gonna wake up?
I don't know, man. Like that's the thing too. It's like you think like with Kieran, he played a little bit here and there, kind of lost interest, and then somehow like this past week, it's like been more than ever. Like I don't know if he just saw some video on YouTube with like the new stuff they added for this season, and suddenly he was in again. But I guess that really is keeping the game fresh for people. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as Epic goes, like the fact that they started their own store, took on Steam, that was a cool thing. But this to me, I don't know. It feels like they're overreaching a bit. But maybe somebody does need to fight Apple. Like you know, I don't really know what the full impact of this is going to be. So it's definitely.
I think the PR marketing that they're doing to like badmouth Apple essentially and like play up like Fortnite's, oh, we're so hurt by this Apple store. We're only making like $1 billion instead of like $1.3 billion. Like we're so hurt by this. Like I think that is pretty disgusting from like just like an ethical standpoint. Like if you want to file the lawsuit, fine, but then you go on this whole like social media, tirade. That seems a little like they're overstepping their bounds, and it seems like they're just reaching a little too far, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean it's tough for me to really relate, and the more I think about it, it's still all I keep thinking about is a phone a necessity at this point? And there's basically two options, and that's again the crux of this issue to me, and that's where my head keeps landing. And I guess it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But the idea that the one article I read that Epic are these freedom fighters essentially, and we fought for crossplay on, like, who fucking cares about crossplay? Clearly, I'm old. I don't get crossplay. I don't get like why that's such a big deal, and like I don't understand any of this stuff. Obviously, I'm old. I don't get it, but it just feels like that eventually people are going to move on, and maybe that's Epic's thing. Like they clearly lowered the price of V-Bucks for a reason, I think, to, maintain maybe our time's going up. How can we get more interest? That's a huge way to do that. And all this stuff is as well. So I don't know. Like the sun's going to set on this game sometime, isn't it? Like it can't go on forever.
I don't know, man.
Not to mention, like, didn't they rip off PUBG? Like, I don't know the whole history. I know there was other battle royale stuff. Like, they didn't really come up with this.
Well, they
Yeah.
ripped off PUBG and added the building aspect, right?
The building aspect is cool. I don't personally like it, but I'll admit it's kind of neat. And it's a cool skill.
Very cool skill. Okay. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about that right now, but obviously it's making a lot of big headlines right now, so I'm sure we'll be following that in the coming weeks. Do you guys have anything to talk about in terms of what you played this week that you want to quickly run down? Frank, you and I played Fall Guys.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that. Yeah, Sean and I did a little multiplayer after we recorded Film Junk last time, and I kind of like the game. I do find the controls to be a little clunky, but that I think is intentional and part of the fun. My second round, I was literally at the crown before anyone else, and this stupid jump fail, which I was like I was under the crown by like a millimeter, and I got fucked. I was so pissed. I'm like, I'm way too good at video games. And then
Yeah,
robbed, I choked. I'm a born choker.
I was watching Frank because I was eliminated, and he got to the end. The crown was like kind of floating up and down, so he had to wait for it to come back down. And just as it was coming back down, some guy ran from behind him, jumped over his head, and grabbed it. Total bullshit, man.
But I mean, it was my first time getting there too in my second round, and I'm like, I see it as I'm approaching it. I had a huge lead, and I'm like, it's kind of going up and down. I had never seen it before. I don't know what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
anyway, I've yet to make it that far again. It's fun. I feel like I was getting the same games over and over again. I hope I don't know if that was just by chance or whatever, but it was cool. I liked it.
I actually don't know how many games there are. I feel like there's like maybe 10 or something.
Yeah,
But
it could use a little more variety. I got to be honest. But
yeah.
I know they added a new one last week. I feel like they're going to keep adding new games, and it seems to be pretty popular.
Oh yeah.
I dug it. Like I said, I downloaded a bunch of games on Apple Arcade, so I'm gonna, embrace the ecosystem while I'm away. Got it paired to an Xbox controller, and have some Wonder Bread and fucking party.
Very cool. What about you, Huxley?
I tried out a couple Game Pass games that I've been meaning to try out. One is called Xeno Crisis, which is sort of like a 16-bit Contra type game, and it was really fun. I really like the art style. Definitely similar art style to a Contra game. Enemies are inspired right out of like Aliens, just like Contra. The gameplay was really good. I had some confusion over like which buttons like throw grenades and which buttons do other stuff, but it's basically like a dual what do you call when the right stick shoots, like twin stick shooter, like a twin stick shooter kind of mechanic game. But yeah, it felt really good. It was hard. I probably only made it to like the second level before I ran out of ammo and guys and continues. But it was pretty neat. I don't know, Sean, you should probably check it out if you haven't checked it out before. I think you'd probably enjoy it. And then the other game I played, which I think just came to Game Pass a couple days ago, was the Touryst, which is like this voxel art style game where it's a puzzle game and you kind of walk around these little islands and you're trying to get into these monuments that are there and kind of solve the puzzles within the monuments. And then there's also kind of side quests around trying to get into the monument and just other stuff on each island. And then there's like this picture taking mechanic, and there's this economy where you make money and then are able to buy things to help you along the way. And it was pretty fun. I played the first two areas, I guess, and it said I was already 18% done the game. So I have a feeling it's a pretty short game, but I kind of got stuck after that 18%. I didn't really know. There was a couple side quests that I had no idea what to do. So I didn't really look into it, but it was pretty fun. And I like the art style. They did a lot of really neat stuff with like depth of field and stuff, but it was good. It was a good little game. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
And of course I'm still playing CrossCode because that game's the best.
Right. Yeah, I've played a little bit of it. I mean, I'm enjoying it for sure. I'm going to try and get into it a bit more, but it seems like it's a pretty long game though, right?
I believe it's something like 30 hours. I think I'm about 12. I'm about 12 hours in right now.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what you would compare it to. I mean, to me, it's kind of Zelda-esque or like Secret of Mana kind of style action RPG. But I do like the main weapon, that sort of reflective disc thing that you throw around, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so I guess, it is an action RPG, but it also is also kind of like a platformer. There's like platforming elements where you can jump between different heights, which is, I guess, kind of like Zelda. though Zelda is not really about the platforming, it's more about just like the different levels in a dungeon, more so than the platforming. And yeah, there's there's like melee combat, and then there's also like a ranged attack. And there's a lot of little subtle nuances with the ranged attack where your weapon actually has like a sort of charge, and if it charges up to full, it'll bounce around. But if you tap it too quickly, it does less damage, not as accurate, and it also won't bounce around. So there is like little nuances to the combat, which is really neat. You also have like a shield to block incoming attacks and reduce your damage. And a lot of that comes into play where there's a lot of combat puzzles where you need to sort of like stay on moving platforms, and you're getting shot while you're trying to stay on the platforms, and a lot of jumping puzzles, a lot of tricky things where you need to bounce the ranged attack against certain pillars in order to unlock sort of like the key, quote unquote, and just a lot of little neat kind of problem solving puzzles that are great along with the combat. I feel like the combat's really good. They have the system where the more guys you fight, you sort of like raise your ranking, and the higher your ranking, the better your rewards are from the enemy drops. So there's like this whole other built-in mechanic where it rewards you for fighting a lot in succession, which is really neat. There's just like a lot of little details. Also like the UI, how it has like everything you could want. They have this like unlock when you can attack the vegetation in the world, and the vegetation gives you items. But then there's also this whole aspect of, get 10 drops from this type of vegetation. You unlock sort of like the details of that. I think they call it like your botanical encyclopedia or something like that. So there's other gameplay loop where you're trying to unlock all that stuff. You're trying to find all the enemies. There's just like a ton of side quests to do. It is supposed to be sort of like an MMO, like a single player MMO. I mean, that's the whole premise of the game, is you are a character playing inside of an MMO game. And it really does take a lot of sort of those gameplay loops from an MMO that keep you coming back to, fill your time, I guess. I mean, and it's all optional. You don't have to do all that side quest stuff, but I find it's usually pretty along your way, and it's not too difficult to do. You don't have this big long path to go down. But yeah, I'm loving the game still. It's great.
Cool. Well, Frank dropped out. He texted saying his phone overheated. Fuck Apple. So, so he's out.
It's being out in nature.
But yeah, I mean, I'll just real quick mention I did play a little bit of Grounded, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's in like early access, I guess, on Game Pass, so it's still kind of in development. It's still a little rough around the edges, but I am liking it. It's kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You play as one of 4 kids. You're kind of navigating through the garden. You have to craft things out of like grass and stuff you pick up along the way. You fight insects. They do have a mode where you can turn off spiders if you're an arachnophobe. So you can like they're still in the game, but they just kind of become this weird shaped creature that doesn't look anything like a spider. So I mean, it's kind of cool that they gave that option. One thing I'll mention, so I managed to play this co-op with Kieran, and I wasn't sure if this would work, but on Game Pass, if you have one Game Pass account, you can play co-op with one person on Xbox, one person on PC, as long as you have a second Xbox Live account created. So it's a little weird. Like you don't have to like sign up for another Xbox Live Gold account. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to create the account. And then I had the Xbox signed into that, and it already had the game downloaded. And then the PC was signed into my actual account, and we were able to both start it up and link up. So
did you say the other account was a gold account as well?
No.
Oh, okay. I guess that's probably what they did for that A Way Out game, because I believe you could buy one copy and then play online with a friend.
Well, that was a little different. They gave like a buddy pass, they called it, or something.
Oh, okay. So you
play like two people on Xbox with one copy. Whereas this is you if you have one Game Pass account, you can have one person playing on the PC version of the Game Pass and one person using the Xbox. But I don't
okay.
do 2 Xboxes. Maybe you
Oh,
could.
that's pretty neat.
Try
Like a
that.
little mini LAN party.
Yeah. So it kind of worked out, but I don't know. I'm liking it. I mean, the only thing that was kind of frustrating, it's one of those games where when you die, all your bag of stuff kind of stays where you died, and then you got to kind of find your way back to it and recover it. So we kind of hit that a bunch of times and got a bit frustrated with it, but yeah, I mean, there's puzzles to solve along the way, and I mean, I think the campaign's like 5 or 6 hours, so I'm gonna try and keep playing it.
Yeah, I did install that, and then I realized it was still in early access, and I thought I'd just wait until the full game and it's fully balanced and all those like rough edges you were talking about were hammered out.
Yeah, I mean, like I to be honest, it's not. I'm not really aware of it as I'm playing the game. Like it seems fairly finished. I'm not sure what kind of stuff they're still tweaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's certainly playable.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we should wrap it up. I think Frank's not coming back, so hopefully he's having a good vacation this week. Yeah, and I don't know if we have anything officially planned for next week. Just see what kind of news comes out. I'm not sure if he's back. I think he said he's going to still be away when we would normally be recording Game Junk. So
yeah, I don't know if we want to delay the next show because I believe next Saturday the DC Fandom thing is coming out where they're going to announce like Suicide Squad officially and the next like Warner Brothers Montreal game.
Okay.
So maybe we could delay like a day to Sunday or something and then do that, cover that. But we could see what comes out this week. Maybe there'll be more Epic versus Sony news or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, other than that, twitter.com/GameJunkPodcast, facebook.com/GameJunk, youtube.com/GameJunk. Anything else I need to mention?
Got the Discord. If you guys want to join that, that's posted. That's pinned to the top of the Facebook page to get the link to that. And I think that's everything.
Okay, cool. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.